The Dallas Cowboys are known for having great running backs on their teams throughout their franchise's existence that are really able to produce at a very high level. You think of guys by the names of Emmitt Smith, DeMarco Murray, and even Herschel Walker for a little bit of time, and they ended up producing at the high level. So in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys were looking to get another running back to succeed to be able to replace DeMarco Murray, who they were missing very much. So they selected Ezekiel Elliott 6th overall in hopes of him to continue on their great running back history in Dallas. So let's get into the rise of fall in him. But first, we got to get into the rise of Ezekiel Elliott and how he became Ezekiel Elliott and how he got to this point. Ezekiel Elliott was born on July 22nd, 1985 in Alton, Illinois, where he later moved to the state of Missouri. Elliott's father, Stacy Elliott, used to be a linebacker for the University of Missouri football team. His mother, Dawn Huff, was also a high school state champion in 3 sports. So Ezekiel Elliott clearly has an athletic background. During Zeke's senior year in high school, Ezekiel Elliott rushed for 1,651 yards and 33 touchdowns on an average per attempt of 14.4 yards, and received 4 passes for 172 yards with 2 scores. So obviously, as you can see, Ezekiel Elliott has had a good high school career, and honestly, was really good. Following this brilliant performance, he was named the St. Louis Post-Dispatch Offensive Player of the Year. As good of a football player Zeke was, he was also a really good track athlete as well. Elliott was a state-level participant in sprinting and hurdle events. His records include times of 11.03 seconds in the 100-meter dash, 22.25 seconds in the 200-meter dash, at 13.77 seconds in the 110-meter hurdles, and 39.01 seconds in the 300-millimeter hurdles. His performance earned him the praise from his track coach, saying, and quote, "I have been going to the Missouri State meet since 1976, and Elliott is one of those kids who is just different than most high school boys," said Ted Graves, head coach at Liberty North in Missouri. He says he has such a force snap with his lead leg, and he truly achieves the hurdles mantra of sprinting over the hurdles. So, how did this help Zeke go into college? Well, he originally wanted to go to the University of Missouri, but they never offered him a scholarship until he received one from the prestigious The Ohio State University. He said this about Mizzou. He went to every spring game. He went to every regular season game, Elliott said. He also said Mizzou was the team I followed my whole life. It was my dream school. So, where did Ezekiel Elliott commit to? Well, it was the University of Ohio State, and everybody really knows how that goes. Well, let's recap how well his college career went. Ezekiel Elliott received little playing time in his freshman year due to being the backup to Carlos Hyde, who went on to be a future pro in the NFL. He concluded his freshman year with 262 yards on 30 attempts with 2 scores. He also caught 3 passes for 23 yards and a touchdown. So, how would Zeke do his sophomore year? Well, he ran for 1,878 yards on 273 attempts for 18 touchdowns, while also catching for 28 passes for 220 yards, for 0 scores. But that's when Ohio State went to the college football playoff, and the bowl game started. So how did he do? In the 2015 Sugar Bowl, Ezekiel Elliott ran for 230 yards on 20 carries in a hard-fought victory over the number 1 team, Alabama. His performance earned him the Offensive Player of the Game, which is pretty heroic, even though it was Cardell Jones also on that team who was taken off. So how did he cap off the Buckeyes season? Well, he ran for 246 yards on 36 carries and scoring 4 more touchdowns against the Oregon Ducks, where he was also named the game's offensive MVP, which once again is no small feat, and he even did that in the championship game, which really was cementing his legacy as a top back in college. So how would Zeke do for his last year in college as a junior? Well, he rushed for 1,821 yards on 289 attempts with an average of 6.3 yards per carry, but he also caught 27 passes for 206 yards. So they capped off the 2015 season with a victory over Notre Dame in their bowl game, and that honestly was a great year for Ezekiel Elliott, where he finished off the season rushing for 149 yards and 4 touchdowns. And a win. So Ezekiel Elliott finished his Ohio State career second behind Ohio State legend Archie Griffin with 3,961 rushing yards. During his tenure in Ohio State, he obviously was a great player and eventually drafted number 6 overall. So, how did Ezekiel Elliott do to start his NFL career? Well, Ezekiel Elliott would rush for 1,631 yards on 322 attempts with a rushing average of 5.1 yards per carry. Zeke would end up being the 2016 rushing champ and would be the runner-up in the Rookie of the Year voting to his own teammate Dak Prescott. Obviously, that team was really good and ended up going into the playoffs with high expectations but didn't go far. So, how did Zeke do in the 2017 season looking to improve on his year? Well, Ezekiel Elliott ended up getting into some off-the-field trouble with allegations of domestic abuse against his girlfriend, which he never was charged criminally. He was still suspended by the NFL, however, the suspension was put on hold indefinitely by a federal judge. After playing 2 games in the start of the 2017 season, Ezekiel Elliott had to serve his 5-game suspension. In addition to his 5-game suspension, Ezekiel Elliott had a decent year. Obviously, he wasn't able to be as productive as he was, but he had 26 receptions for 269 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. He also had 242 carries for 983 yards and 7 scores in 10 games and the starts he played in. After the 2017 season, Zeke would rush for over 1,200 yards in the next 2 years, but after that is when things started to really go downhill for him. That is when Zeke's troubles continued in the following years. In 2018, he was involved in a car accident and cited for driving with a suspended license. Obviously, that car accident did hinder him a little bit with injuries. But in 2019, he was also detained by police at a music festival in Las Vegas after an altercation with a security guard. Zeke's behavior did raise concerns among the Cowboys management and fans, and he was criticized for his lack of maturity and discipline. Now, you go to 2022, Zeke rushed for 2020, and Zeke was still being questioned for his laziness as he did come to camps overweight and needed to lose the weight fast. So, in 2020, he rushed for 979 yards on 244 attempts with an average of per attempt of 4 yards. So obviously Ezekiel Elliott had a pretty good year. He didn't rush for 1,000 yards, but he definitely did have a good year. During that year is when Zeke started to battle injuries, which started to affect his play. Next year in 2021, Zeke would play in all 17 games, but a whole list of injuries piling up during the season and making people really question if he was the right back going forward, especially after the emergence of Tony Pollard. So, how did Zeke do in 2022? Well, he only rushed for 877 yards on 231 attempts of an average of 3.8 yards per carry. He was splitting carries with Tony Pollard though, but it really just was a down year in his career lows. Zeke saw his carries getting split with Pollard, and it showed that he wasn't the same back anymore. He wasn't used to go catch passes like he used to be, but now Pollard was taking over those workload. So obviously you see a change in workload, and people were really questioning if Ezekiel Elliott was still going to be the back going forward, especially to that hefty contract he had. So what happened? Well, after the 2022 season, Ezekiel Elliott was really criticized, and the Cowboys needed money. So what did he do? What did the Cowboys do? Well, they released him, and now he's a free agent. There was a rumor that he signed with the Eagles. That didn't really come into happen, but he has the Eagles as a top destination. So Zeke's rise and fall served as a cautionary tale about the importance of professionalism and personal responsibility for professional athletes. While his talent on the field was undeniably amazing, but his off-field behavior ultimately overshadowed his accomplishments that he made. It remains to be seen whether Zeke can fully get back to his old self, or if he's just going to continue to be a shell of himself. In my honest opinion, Zeke started to look sluggish towards the end of this season, and he just wasn't the same. I think he can get back to it. It only just depends on what team he goes to, especially if the team has a great offensive line like the Eagles. If he goes to a team that is just needing the number 1 back but doesn't have a great offensive line, I don't think he'll do well. I don't think he'll still continue to be hurt. So, thank you all for watching. If you can please like, comment, and subscribe. Click the notification bell so that way you're notified for any videos. And I'll see you all again. Have a good day, everyone.